Welcome to Amiga Ireland. I'm Irla.
I'm Rob.
I'm Luke.
And this is the episode that was supposed to be recorded at Amiga Ireland that just happened in Ireland just last week, actually. But the episode didn't get recorded because somebody forgot to press record.
Well, yeah. I didn't know it was my job.
It happens sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the record button wasn't, red enough.
Yeah.
All I can say in my defence is I had a lot on my mind at that particular moment in time, and although on the surface it looks like it's my fault, if you look a little bit deeper, it's actually Luke's fault.
Yes. It's definitely my fault.
Because Luke, if you were there,
I would have pressed the button then.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah.
So I'm still recovering anyway from the last event, and I haven't even finished unpacking everything we brought to the venue, but we had a fantastic event. There were some great people there, and I'm seeing some great video footage and photography and articles coming out. It's really heartwarming to see that, and everybody so determined to make it back for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing seeing all the different messages popping up and notifications popping up on Twitter and Facebook, and all this. And it's still rolling in a week later. It's obviously very popular.
I'm really glad the party was a major success, and I'm hoping to turn up next year.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think, Luke, you are going to either come the easy way or the hard way next year.
We'll see.
Okay. So if you don't know what we're talking about, go to amigausers.ie/media and check out some of the great photography and videos that have been taken. And we're going to go through the podcast a bit more quickly than last time, because whoever's at the event has heard some of this already. But how have you two guys been doing?
I'm all right, and I said it before and I say it now. I'm still flat out with Amiga related stuff, which is a nice way to be. But keeping me busy. Every spare minute I get is kind of being taken up by various projects and repairs and stuff. So there you go, keeping busy. What about you, Luke?
And I've been trying to set up some goals for the upcoming year, schedule things and prepare myself for the upcoming year. So we'll see how it goes. That's the case.
Okay, let's move on to the news. First up is something I missed at Christmas time, which is FriendUp have had a new release. Version 1.1 has been made available, and they've improved browser compliance with different esoteric browsers like Microsoft Edge. They've made updates to their GUI, and they've added new file system drivers including WebDAV, SSHFS, Samba FS, and loads more. And we link to the release notes and you can see it.
ArtState Digital, which comes up with the name Andrzej Wilk, has released a new demo, which is actually available now. The demo is called City Limits, and I think it's a really nice and pretty stylish demo by his old group called Powerhouse. And if you like demo scene and you like the old school demo scene, like from the late 80s or early 90s, I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy that production.
Amiga Future magazine is 20 years old at the moment, and that's got a whole total of 130 magazine issues so far. And that's amazing. It's still going strong and still full of some, pretty great news and reviews and all that kind of stuff. And of course, my programming tutorials. But yeah, it's great to see.
Yeah, I love the Amiga Future roots, that it's back from the time when I was still actually dabbing in Amiga.
Yeah.
ADBug, a commercial debugger for Motorola 68000 processors for Amiga, has now been open sourced and it's on GitHub. the French magazine Amiga News published a test of it in October 1991, and we linked to that as well.
A new version of Amiga Radio has been released. Amiga Radio is a program thanks to which you can listen to your modules, actually downloading them, actually listening them online, which is pretty nifty, I must say, and pretty handy if you like music and if you like listening to mods from games or from demo scene. Enjoy it. It is worth checking.
Absolutely. I haven't checked it out since the very early version, but it's a great idea, and it just connects to AmiNet and downloads the mods from there.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Brilliant.
That's the thing.
Yeah. And the Witcher 500i accelerator, which is for the Amiga 500, that has had a firmware update, and also a hardware add-on for it has been released, which can decode MP3s. So this will let you play MP3s excellent quality on your Amiga 500, and that's it's like so similar to the mass player kind of idea, but a dedicated hardware decoder, which is great as well.
And after quite some time, there's a new release of Amiga Cloud Handlers, actually, by Norbert Kett, a Hungarian programmer. Dropbox and Google Drive on Amiga. Again, just a bug-fixed version and a little bit of support, but it's still really nice to see Norbert being active on Amiga scene. So if your Amiga is online, go check it, download it, and experiment with it. It's good to see some, modern stuff on our classic Amigas.
Mm-hmm. There have been a few updates for what I would consider almost essential pieces of software. So first off, Reddit, which is fast becoming my favourite lightweight editor. It's almost like Ed, but not a nice editor, and it runs on everything from Workbench 1.2 up. That's had a few bug fixes, and it's getting better all the time. And also Tor, the various Tor programs like Load Resistant and the MMU libraries, that whole suite of software has been updated again with new with bug fixes and sort of support for new new configurations. Dizzy Torrent has been updated, as far as I know, and that's sort of 68k BitTorrent client, which is great.
Okay, let's move on to the games. Hold and Modify posted a download link for a lovely looking game that's still in development. It's called Highway Sprint, and it's a new project by Aeroc, and it's a multiplayer game for OCS Amigas with 1 meg of RAM. It's beautiful. It looks like a modern iOS game, and we've got a link to the tweet that has the picture and the information and stuff.
Okay, System 3 have announced that they've got some big plans for this year coming, and so they've given some sneak peeks to their remake of The Last Ninja, and so that's coming down the line, along with some other remakes of their classic games.
Starfish by the New Dimension was released on Christmas Day for a C64. The game looks pretty good, and have a look. If you like it, then try it. If you don't, just don't.
The Shoot 'em Up construction kit competition for 2018 has been announced. So most people will remember it from the Commodore 64 and the Amiga days, where it allows you to kind of create graphics and make a game without having to program. And it doesn't even have to be a shooting game. You just have to use the kit to enter and submit. So we've got the link and in the show notes. And if you're interested in putting a little game together for some fun, it might be a nice hobby.
Else We Get Mad is a new game that's been released recently. That's kind of a sort of a Streets of Rage kind of game, sort of a side-scrolling beat 'em up, which is, it's in a particular style by I can't remember the guy's name, but it's very, very nice pixelated graphics, lovely particular distinctive art style that he has. So that's well worth checking out if that's your thing.
And Vintage is the New Old has compiled a list of 2017 game releases for Amiga, C64 and even some other systems. And we've got the link to that. Well done to Kitty and the team there. It's a really good list. There are 48 releases for Amiga on the list and 67 for other Commodore machines like the 64, 128, Commodore 16 and the VIC-20. So go and take a look. It's a great recap of the year in games. And now it's time for our discoveries.
So while browsing the internet, I found an interesting site and actually an article about BBSs. The site presents 7 modern BBSs worth calling today. And if you have, like an Amiga connected to your Wi-Fi modem or a 64 Commodore connected to your Wi-Fi modem, this might be an interesting site to check and to call these BBSs actually.
Lovely. And a Kickstarter for the new Amiga 500 cases is being prepared. So the cases for the 1200 machines have been already released, and you can get some beautiful colour combinations of cases with keycaps. And you can go and look at their website now, and you can see that there's a Kickstarter being, it's in the incubation period. You can't pledge yet, but it's being worked on. And thanks to Lambda Calculus on AmigaLove.com for tipping me off to that one.
Mm-hmm. Some VIC-20 news, and there's the V'ger 20 expansion is in development at the moment, and that is a kind of a general purpose expansion for the VIC-20. And it's a massive thing, and it's an FPGA based device. And what it will do is it will give a full, a higher resolution output for only for software that will use it, but it gives you an assembler and debugger and a lot of stuff for making using the VIC-20 a lot more a lot easier, especially developing on the VIC-20. But it's kind of, because it's an FPGA, it's you can add a lot of extra features to it as time goes on, so it's well worth keeping an eye on if you have a VIC-20 lying around.
Nice. Yeah, it's really cool to see something for the VIC-20. And Amiga City Radio is a website that is streaming Amiga music constantly, and we've got the link to that in the show notes as well. And it's a nice companion to Slay Radio, which plays the SIDS.
A developer that goes by the name Bright Light posted a non-playable demo of his port of Wolfenstein 3D for an Amiga 500 plus 1MB of RAM, which looks really, really impressive in my opinion. The link to all the details and a link to the download will be in the show notes.
That came out of a heated debate over whether it would be possible or not, and someone has just decided to, right, here, I'll show them.
Yeah, that's really good, because there is a Macintosh port which looks really nice. There is an Atari ST port that's pretty decent, I must say. And if it comes to Amiga, yeah, there is a port as well, but as far as I remember, it requires O20 or O30 to run, which is pretty steep. And Wolfenstein 3D, I think, is not a very demanding game actually. And as far as I remember, the first time I played it was like on 286, with 1MB of RAM. So yeah. See, the problem is that the Amiga is kind of hobbled with the planar graphics, and I know
that makes these things slow. So even a simple game like Wolfenstein needs extra power to kind of to overcome the limitations and to brute force it, if you like. So it's not like it's a sort of a port is a strong word. It's more like a complete rewrite from scratch in terms that favour the Amiga. But
it looks really, really impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of the way back in those days, or even back in the 80s, ports used to be like that, as in you say it's a port, but in reality it's two separate games that just happen to look the same.
Yeah.
And so because they're totally different platforms and everything would be so different about them.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so C64 Television is a YouTube channel, and they have a Twitch account as well, and they're streaming C64 games online, which is a bizarre thing to think about even, but it's great.
Andrew Kennett sends a link to an interesting site, and the site is www.amigapublicdomain.com. It's a site when you can find different sorts of public domain games, and if you like that sort of archives or archaeology, I'm pretty sure you'll find a lot of interesting things down there.
This has been kind of possible for a while, but it's interesting to know that you can actually mount ADF images directly in Linux and access them as access the files on them, and it's kind of their instructions in the thread, and we'll link to that thread now. But it's kind of like it actually just works like mounting any other image in Linux, and it's had like FFS support for quite a while now. Actually, Linux has, but it can mount it as a device, and it's great to especially if you're using a Linux machine as an Amiga emulator setup or whatever.
And this tip came in from Vicky Lee and Alana Kelly, so thanks to both of you for putting this onto this. GameDevelopers.ie is a volunteer-run project that exists to help local game developers, both inside and outside of the industry, to network, communicate and publicise their work. They promote training, events, diversity and more. And I discovered just in the last day or two that the Outrun port that was running on Craig Harrison's Vampire at the Amiga Ireland event was actually created by Modern Vintage Gamer, the YouTuber. I had no idea that he had ported software.
Yeah.
And there is a C64 PSU replacement project that will cost you a total of $35 US, which is by Perry Frantic Retro Recipes. That's a YouTube channel. And he gets a few parts together and he talks about, the existing offerings. Like if you want to get a new brick, it can cost you up to 100. And then some of the old ones are likely to fry, or, they're likely to start sending out high voltages and damage your machine. So, it's an interesting video, and the link is in the show notes. And that means it's time for the community events. Well, Amiga Ireland has wrapped up, and you can go to amigausers.ie/media to see some of the photos and videos and get a sense of what's been happening. Sensible Blogger and Miss Mad Lemon have put up some pretty good stuff as well. And next year's plans have begun already, and on top of everything that's on the schedule for this year, which you can see at the website, one new introduction is going to be a workshop to install AROS on your laptop or in a virtual machine and get it configured, and Neil Cafferty is going to run that. So we're going to have more workshops than you can shake a stick at by next year.
Yeah, that'll be brilliant now. So we have an Amiga event in Glasgow for the first time in a while, and that's going to happen now on the 3rd of February, which is only a couple of days time. So that's looking forward to that. It's probably going to be a fairly small affair, but we'll have actually a lot of machines. It seems that everyone seems to be bringing 2 or 3 machines to this thing, so it could be quite interesting if you want to have a look at various different modifications of Amigas and different from stock stuff all the way up to some pretty heavily expanded stuff that we have here. So looking forward to that. That's going to be it should be good.
Yeah, best of luck to you.
Best of luck to you, Rob.
Cheers. Should maybe see you there next year.
Absolutely. I wanted to go this year, but after the event we just had, funds are slightly on the low side. But
absolutely.
Army Party in Home, Poland, is about to begin on the 2nd of February, and the link will be in the show notes. And this time all effort has been focused on good fun, entertainment, game tournaments, night karaoke, hardware presentations, and I'm pretty sure if you are actually in Poland and you've never been to Army Party, I highly recommend it. And but if you have time and money and good sense of humor, just visit, and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, and thanks to all the Polish visitors that came to Amiga Ireland this year.
Yeah,
the Polish the favour.
The Polish corner seems to be growing.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
It's great.
It's quite an impressive turnout, all right, yeah. And there was one of their guys in the final of the Sensible Soccer tournament, which is so we had the Polish versus the Irish. So, yeah.
Good. I'm really glad then.
Okay, ask Amiga.
Right. Well, this question was it came up a little while ago with someone asking how to change the file attributes from the shell. So they were trying to sort something out there, basically to make a file executable, using the Amiga shell. Because obviously you can do that from, right click and the icon information window. But the shell actually has a command called protect, and this lets you specify a file name or a pattern, so you can change a whole bunch of files at the same time, and tell it which flags to give the file. But you can also use plus or minus to just modify just the specified flags and leave the rest of them alone. And a little bit of background on the flags. You've got it's 8 bits. There's one byte put aside in every file for the protection bits. So that's 8 bits, and those bits are labelled HSPA or WED. So the second 4 are the common ones that kind of most people will know about. So there's or WED, readable, writable, executable, and deletable, and they're kind of like self-explanatory, really. So if a program doesn't have the E bit set, you won't be able to run it, and if a file doesn't have the D bit set, then you won't be able to delete it. Very simple. So the other 4 are a little less well known. So you've got HSPA. So first of all, we start going the other way. So A is archived, and what happens with that is that that bit is cleared by Amiga DOS every time a file is accessed. So if you set the A bit and then you modify the file, it's automatically cleared and gone away. And that is very, very useful for backup programs, because they can see if the A bit is still set. If they set the A bit when they do their backup and the A bit is still set, they know that it hasn't been touched since they last saw it, and will leave it alone. And that makes for nice, efficient backups without having to worry about file dates and things like that. S is for script, and so if you don't have to strictly have that bit set for things like Amiga DOS scripts and AREX scripts, because you can use the execute command to execute a script anyway. But if you set the script, you can run the command you can run the script as a command. So you just have to type the name of the command, and it will run almost like it's an executable if the S bit and the E bit are set. P is for pure, and what that means is that the code is reentrant. Essentially means the code kind of doesn't interfere with itself. It works perfectly as a standalone code, and that means that it can be made resident, which allows the Amiga DOS to hold it in memory and not have to load it each time the command is called. Somewhat related to that is the H flag. Now, a lot of people misinterpret that as hidden, but Amiga DOS doesn't really have any concept of hidden files. And now some file systems do that, but as a rule, Amiga DOS doesn't support hidden files. Whereas in Workbench, as an aside, they're hidden if you don't have an icon, and that's kind of the way around it. That's the alternative take. But the H in normal terms actually stands for hold, and what that means is that it lets Amiga DOS keep the program in memory. So if let's say you have to set the pure flag as well, but if you have, let's say, the copy command and you set the H flag, the first time you type copy to copy something, it will load the program from disk and run it. But then the second time you type copy, it won't have to load it again, because it's after holding it in memory from the last time. So it's actually quite useful if you're, especially on floppy only systems, which is kind of the intention, so that you don't have to keep on inserting the Workbench disk again when you're running commands in the shell.
I actually knew nothing about these attributes. It's really interesting.
and they're a little bit, they kind of get lost because they're unique to Amiga, or the exact sort of meanings of them are unique to Amiga. So sometimes they get translated badly from other file systems. Like if you take some files from a Windows drive or something like that, or you've got a WinUAE set up and you're sharing a folder between Windows and the Amiga side, it'll be a FAT32 folder, or it'll be equivalent to something like that, and it won't have the exact same flags. So file systems do try to take a best guess at it and try to interpret it, but sometimes you might find that some certain implementations might set the H flag if it's hidden, whereas in fact that's totally wrong. And usually the A bit is sometimes inverted, because in Windows the archive bit is the opposite meaning, as in the bit is set when a file has been modified. But to get around that, actually, I'm rambling on a bit here, but to get around that, in Amiga, if you actually look at the raw data on the disk, the RWED bits are negative. So of the 8 bits there, so read, write, execute and delete are all active if the bit is 0. And the reasoning for that is it's the most common, or it's the easiest way to deal with files, is to have RWED. It means it'll work in most cases, and it means that if there are no flags assigned, it defaults to RWED, which is what most files do. So usually when you copy something over, it turns up as RWED, and that works for the majority of things, but not for everything.
Okay, yeah, I think that's what happened to this person. I think they extracted the archive on a Windows machine and then copied the things over and lost their executable bit. But thanks for explaining, Rob.
Yeah, that's it. And it's common, actually. You get a lot of people saying, I downloaded this archive, didn't work. And it's because they unpacked it on Windows or copied it with Windows.
Well, we've got some feedback. I have to make a retraction from our last podcast episode. In our last episode, I said that Peter of Sworden.ie goes to visit his friend in England at least once a year, and they spend the whole weekend playing Settlers, drinking a few cans together. So I got a message on SoundCloud. It's actually a few bottles of vodka rather than beer that we're drinking when playing Settlers. Smiley face.
Yeah.
So these details matter. So and we care. So there you go.
and after seeing him in action at the Amiga Ireland thing, I don't doubt it.
That's right. Yeah, Peter had a Crazy Priest on display, and the last time he was at Amiga Ireland, we saw it in development, but he had it finished, and there was some great multiplayer. So many people were rating that game so highly. It went down really well at the event, and you can download that from Sordan.ie as well, and from AmiNet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it from us, and we're going to take a little break for ourselves because we've been really busy after between the event and all kinds of things. So this is the February episode, and normally what would happen is 2 weeks later an interview is released. So we're going to actually skip the interview this month. Then the beginning of March, normally on the first Thursday, we have a normal episode like this. We're going to skip that as well, and we're going to come back to you with the interview mid-March. So until then, thanks for tuning into us, and we'll be nice and refreshed in March. I hope, anyway.
That's the plan.
See you then.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
We're going to play out with another song by Banjo Guy Ollie, and this time it's Monkey Island, the Scum Bar theme.
Amiga Future is 120 or
Someone's had a long week.
oh, stop. Okay.